Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode in our Thousand Sons and Third Edition series. Today we are doing part 5, Legion Inductii. So let's talk about some Inductii and get on into it. So, as a general overview of Inductii, let's talk about them. Here is the special rule. So there's some flavor text. Okay, in any Inductii special rule, you have this rule. It says when a unit that includes any models with this special rule is selected to fill a prime force organization chart, no corresponding prime advantage may be selected. So Inductii do not get to select or take advantage of prime advantages. So important to remember, but there are other differences between Inductii and normal squads. But let's talk about this real quick. Just a brief overview. So first of all the Inductii squads are either an equivalent to a tactical squad or a despoiler. So you have your bolter variant and you have your chainsword bolt pistol variant. So most of them, or all of them, follow into one of those two kind of distinctions. They are their own unique units. They are just similar to these units. There are no sergeants, for the most part. Some of the Inductii do have sergeant level characters, but for the most part, no sergeants in the squads. They have limited war gear options, or a lot of times unique war gear options, so that's something to look at. You don't equip them the same way you do with their kind of equivalent Big Brother squads. You cannot select prime advantages, as the Inductii special rule states. They do not have Fury of the Legion, except for, I believe, Death Guard have Fury of the Legion, but no Fury of the Legion on the tacticals. The tactical equivalent has line 1. Some of the other variants have different rules, but the line 1 of the tacticals is relevant for us today. Alright, the Thousand Sons Inductii. let's talk about what they have going for them. So we're going to post some rules here. And these are free online on the Warhammer community website. You can go to the downloads, the Horus Heresy, and look up the legacies, and you'll get all the Inductii rules. So, the rules for the Inductii squad, Thousand Sons Inductii squad, unit composition is 10 Inductii for 90 points, and you can add up to 10 additional Inductii for an extra 9 points per model. They have standard tactical marine stats. I believe their intelligence is 1 lower than your typical tactical squad, and you notice there's no profile for a sergeant, so they are missing out on a leadership characteristic there, 1 leadership point. They have bolters, bolt pistol, frag, and crack grenades. They're a tactical squad, right? They're Thousand Sons. You give them an allegiance. They are psychers because they're Thousand Sons, and they have a rule called Unattuned, one of their traits, and that follows with their Arcana. And their special rules, they have line 1, like we talked about. They have Unattuned Practitioners, which is their Arcana, and they are Inductii, so no prime advantages. They are infantry. And for options, for every 4 models in the unit, 1 Inductii in this unit may have its bolter exchanged with a Volkite Caliver for 10 points per model. It's worthless. I'm sorry. It looks cool. Not going to be what you're going to want. So, but yeah, you can pay the points to give a Caliver for up to 5 in the unit if you have a max squad of 20. So you can get quite a few Calivers. 1 Inductii in the unit may be given a Vexilia for 10 points. And up to 2 Inductii in this unit may have 1 item from the Legion equipment list selected for them. That is your Nuncio Vox and Augury Scanner, which we'll talk about later. Each of those are 10 points. And any model unit with a bolter may have one of the following. May have a bayonet or a chain bayonet, which is also a relatively, I'm going to say relatively worthless upgrade. Overall in this edition, bayonets and chain bayonets are just not good. They give you AP 5 and on the bayonet and the chain bayonet. I think they're both AP 5, which is worthless to anyone except militia and maybe some Mechanicum units. And then the chain bayonet gives you shred on top of that, which I guess does have a very limited use, but it's not worth the 2 points per model. The Unattuned Practitioners. This is the special rule for the Thousand Sons Inductii squad. All of models in the unit with Unattuned Prospering Arcana gain the following benefits. They get Etheric Guidance, Psychic Power, and the Unattuned trait, which we have seen. So, etheric guidance is a power and it's a blessing. Remember, we've talked about arcanas before in previous episodes. The summary, it improves the effectiveness of ranged attacks made by the unit. That's great. So, focus is a model with the unattuned trait that's part of the unit making attack. So, just one of the models in the squad is your focus. They just have to have the unattuned trait. So, anybody in the Inductii squad. Your target is the same unit the focus is a part of. Okay? And you can only have models with the Thousand Sons trait. So, you cannot join allies to this Inductii squad and get the benefit. But like all the other arcanas, if you have other models joined to the squad with the command or specialist rule or paragon rule, they do benefit from this power. It's very important later, and we'll talk about it. So the duration is until the end of the shooting attack that's being resolved. Great, you do it step 4, so it's after you choose weapons when you choose when to use the power, and lasts through this shooting attack from this unit. So what it does, essentially, we can go through, you make a manifestation check. If you pass, all weapons, excluding weapons with the Blast X rule, gain Breaching 6+. It's very good. Breaching 6+ is on a 6 to wound. Your attack is AP2. So you're just passing right through any armor save. Very important, and we'll talk about this. Okay, so you have to manifest it. Then all your ranged weapons in the target unit have breaching 6 up, as long as they're not blast. So we'll exclude blast from this. Okay, and if it fails, there's no further effect. So let's talk about let's I guess dive into this. There's a lot to get into. So we'll start off with the benefits of this squad. So the benefits, number 1, they're cheaper than a tactical squad. It's a 10-point discount. Now, there's a bit less utility, but we'll talk about it. But you're saving 10 points from just the standard 10-man tactical squad, 20 points if it's a full 20-man, so it's a little cheaper. You can't choose the Athenaean Arcana, which is our like unique way of getting rid of statuses, but you can get a Nuncio Vox in the squad. So that's important to remember, that you can still get around mass statuses or statuses limiting the effectiveness of this squad by having a Nuncio Vox. That is an option. The Arcana is free on the squad. Just about every other squad in the Thousand Sons army has to pay 10 points for their Arcana. So since theirs is free, it's essentially, I could say essentially, a 20-point discount on the basic 10-man squad. Right, so there's starting to be a bit of a difference, where you'd pay 110 points for a normal tactical squad with an Arcana, and you're paying 90 points for the Inductii squad. So it is a decent discount. We're going to mitigate that with some things, but you can start to see where these guys are looking pretty good. They have some serious damage potential, and this is something we'll get into later, but they can put out some serious damage for a tactical squad equivalent. That breaching 6 up has a lot of shenanigans behind it, and I feel like if you've played Thousand Sons and you've dug into the rules, you can probably start to see some of these combos with breaching. And Thousand Sons love the breaching rule for a lot of different reasons, but yes, good damage potential. They're only suffering Perils of the Warp. Their suffering Perils of the Warp is only D3 wounds. All right, so you're not killing half your squad if you happen to fail, or I guess if you fail, you don't suffer. But if you happen to perils on your ability to get the breaching, it's much lower risk. You're killing between 9 and 27 points of models. That's not the end of the world, and it's a built-in risk that we have to take as Thousand Sons, right? You're not using this power every single turn. If you are, you're in a pretty good spot, honestly, but the D3 wounds is not too bad of a drawback, and I think it's actually a benefit, especially those you come from 2nd edition. This is better. They can still be joined by command and specialist models, and we will talk about this later. This is very important, and we'll talk about how good this is that they can be joined by these models and some of the synergies that you get from this. All right, some limitations to the Inductii squad. So we're going to reiterate some things we talked about earlier, but just to reiterate some of these things. They don't get Fury of the Legion. So they're 2 shots per bolter per guy. All right, that's what it is. You're not getting the 3rd shot. You're not getting the heavy firepower Fury of the Legion. It is a low durability unit that you want to be fighting other units. Not melee, right? You don't want to be in melee, but a lot of our tactical squads, we want them to sit on objectives. We want them to do the mission things and not necessarily be up in the front lines. That's kind of almost not quite a last resort, but that's not the first use of a tactical squad, right? So we don't care too much about the durability of a base tactical squad, or at least as much as we do for squads we want in the fight. You know, Assault Marines are very low durability for what we want them to do because their job is to go kill stuff, right? And they're going to be naturally be attacked back. So this Inductii squad is going to be a threat. It's going to be presenting itself as a target, and it doesn't have a ton of durability for a Space Marine, for a unit that you want in the fight. The abilities and the damage potential from this squad is reliant on rolling 6s. Okay, so I know, you know, all of us think we have pretty bad luck and we just can't roll 6s when we need to, and I understand that happens. We're going to do some math later, and we're going to talk about our probabilities of rolling certain dice. But at the end of the day, if you have a 5-sided dice, you're not going to roll 6s, right? If you can't roll the 6s, you're not going to do the damage that you want, right? As it works with everything. If you can't roll 6s, you know, you always want to roll the 6s, but it is kind of luck reliant, the damage output that they have. There's no sergeant, so you're not getting the bonus point of leadership, and that's essentially the biggest deal with a sergeant with any kind of tactical squad, is just that 1 point of leadership, and you're not getting it. It's not the end of the world, but it makes modeling them a little easier. If you did happen to have an Inductii squad from last edition, you made a cool sergeant, I'm sorry. Your dude's just kind of a dude now, but yeah, no extra leadership on your sergeant. And they're limited in their versatility. So we talked about joining characters, and we'll talk about how to limit, how to mitigate this. But you're locked into the one Arcana for this squad. Now, it's the only Arcana you want on this squad, but you are locked in. You can't choose Athenaean or, you know, Corvidae or something else to help them fill a different role. They have a very specific role in damage output, and that's what they're doing. You take Inductii, you're taking them to put out damage. No prime advantages. We talked about all Inductii. You can't make them combat veterans to help them use their psychic power. You can't give them anything like that. No logistical benefit off of these guys. If you're taking Magnus, you don't want to fill your Crusade detachment, your primary detachment with these guys, because then you just lose out on those prime benefits. They're only line 1, so holding an objective, you're losing a victory point if these guys are holding it as opposed to a tactical squad. Again, their versatility is limited, right? All right, equipping this squad. So the things you want this squad to have, and you know, ominous empty bottom of the page here. Nuncio Voxes. 10 points. Get rid of a status for the most part. You know, you need command models to ping this off of, but it gives you that option to remove statuses at the start of your turn. So someone hits you with a suppressed and you're only snapshotting, you can Nuncio Vox that status away most of the time. As a Thousand Sons player, we do have Athenaean. On other squads, we can rely on removing statuses, so we have a lot of options in our Legion. But the 10 points on Nuncio Vox, in my opinion, are always worth it. I can't think of any instance where I would not put a Nuncio Vox on a squad. But yeah, so that's kind of, you know, it's a 100-point squad at this point with the Nuncio Voxes on the dude. I believe the Volkite Calivers are a trap. So we have better options that are cheaper, and we'll talk about that. But 10 points for Volkite Caliver, it's still 2 shots. It's higher strength, but we're not going to be worried about strength on our weapons. So, and again, we're going to just wait. We're getting into it. I think the Volkite Calivers are a trap. We have options that end up costing the same points as a bunch of Volkite Calivers, and we're going to be putting more damage out with them. Otherwise, nothing else is necessary. The augury scanner could be something you might want, on a unit of 20. That might, just to get rid of Shroud. You don't want them in melee. Vexilia is not going to be a great deal on them. Bayonets, no bayonets. There is one thing, though. One thing I think you're going to want on this squad. Not only does it present a really cool hobby modeling opportunity, but it skyrockets their damage potential, and those things are Ace-Fix Bolters. Ace-Fix Bolters are the Thousand Sons unique bolters that are found in the Legacy PDF. Again, Warhammer Community downloads Horus Heresy, and you find the Legacy, so the big Legacy PDF. I'm going to post the rules here. So, first, with the bolters, I'm just doing little screenshots here. Any unit entirely composed of models with the Thousand Sons trait, all of your Thousand Sons. Every model in that unit may have its bolter exchanged for one Ace-Fix bolter for 3 points per model. It is expensive. This takes your 90-point squad and puts them to 120 points. It takes your 180-point squad, puts them to 240 points. So if you are taking 20 of these guys at 240 point, and I'd always put the Nuncio Vox at 250 points for this squad to give them all Ace-Fix bolters. Is it worth 3 points per model? Well, here's the stats, and then we're going to talk about some synergies here, because that's what we do with Thousand Sons. We're all about our synergies. I have the pistol and the bolter just so you can see that they're similar. And there is one typo in these rules that that we'll talk about, because this gets ridiculous if they didn't have if this isn't a typo. But Ace-Fix Bolter at the bottom there, it's only 18-inch range. It's a lower range than a bolter. It's 2 attacks, firepower 2, strength 4, AP 5, 1 damage. This says pistol. I do not believe this is a pistol. I think that's a typo. If it is a pistol, then give your dudes an Ace-Fix pistol as well. Pay 6 points, get the extra shot. I don't know. No, don't do that. Just use their regular pistol with their bolter pistol. But anyway, I believe that pistol trait is a typo, or pistol special is a typo. But it's rending 6+. If you're not familiar with the rending rule, what rending means is that on a roll to hit, if you make that target number, so 6+, on the rending 6+, you make a 6+, that hit automatically wounds regardless of the weapon's strength and your target's toughness. It automatically wounds, and that wounding hit, or the wounding roll, counts as a 6 for the purpose of triggering other special rules. See where I'm going with this? So you can auto wound on a roll of 6. That's what it is. Shorter range, rending 6+. Those are the differences between the bolter and the Ace-Fix bolter. Let's do some math here. Let's explain this. So mathing out the inductii damage, we're going to do a couple things. For the sake of easy math, we're going to do a 15-man squad, because that gives us 30 shots, which is way easier to math out when you're dealing with D6s, right? 15-man squad. That squad is 135 points base, if my math is right there, and it's 180 with the Ace-Fix bolter. So we're going to go through the math on either side, and we're going to start with these standard bolters. All right, so standard bolters, our squad is willpower 8. Now, if you notice in the stats it said willpower 7, they still benefit from the Thousand Sons Rite of War, Legion Rite of War, which is +1 willpower. So it is a willpower 8 squad. Willpower 8 gives you a 72.23% chance of success when you're using the power, the Unattuned Practitioners, or the Etheric Guidance power is what it is. 72% chance of success on this power. I'm not going to factor in Perils of the Warp, messing with their damage. We say, you're successful or not successful. Perils is another situation. Normal bolters, you have 30 shots at 24 inches. Okay, so decent 2-foot range. You will get 20 hits on average. Okay, we're using math, we're not rolling actual dice. And then with your wounds, you're going to get, it's 3.3 breaching because you're rolling sixes, right? So you get 3.3 breaching wounds, 6.7 armor saves against toughness 4. This is with our math, okay? This is against just normal power armored Marines. That totals about 5.5 unsaved wounds versus power armored Marines. All right, 15-man squad, standard bolters. You get the power off. You're firing and you're killing 5.5 Marines on average. Pretty simple, okay? 5.5 Marines. Let's move over to the Ace Fix bolters. It's 180 points for these Ace Fix bolters, so keep that in mind. Same deal. Willpower 8. That doesn't change anything. 72% chance of getting this power. You're getting 30 shots at only 18 inches, so you do have to be closer to your target. Something to keep in mind. Does make rhinos appealing, but keeping them in cover, running them forward also works. You're getting 20 hits, and 5 of those are rending and breaching already because of the 30 shots. So 1/6 of those, that's 5 of them are rending and breaching. So you roll the 6 on the rend, it becomes a 6 to wound automatically, even though auto wounds whatever toughness. So firing at Saturnine Dreadnoughts, normally toughness or strength 4 bolters wouldn't be able to scratch them, but rending they're able to. But 1/6 of those 30, that's 5 of them, that's a rend, and it counts as 6 to wound, that's a breach. 5 breaching wounds already on the shots. Then we go to wound. So you have 15 other hits because you had 20 hits. You have 15 hits remaining. You rolled a wound, 2.5 of those breach. 5 more armor saves needed on like a tactical squad on toughness 4. That totals 9.17 unsaved wounds versus power armored Marines. You're almost wiping a normal tactical squad with the single volley from the Ace Fix bolters. Now, where it gets interesting to me is when you fire at something like a dreadnought or like a big monster type creature, big robot, something like that. You average 5 wounds versus any dreadnought. So you're wounding a Saturnine Dreadnought, a Leviathan Dreadnought. This is a 15-man squad, so it's 180 points. That's about the same cost as a Dreadnought, and your average is 5 wounds. If you spike a bit, you'll kill the Dreadnought. If they don't spike, the Dreadnought dies. You could do less wounds if either of those situations are in reverse. But after the Dreadnought invuln saves, you're averaging 5 wounds on a Dreadnought. It's brutal. I played a game last week and I took Inductii for the first time. And yeah, I killed a Contemptor with a 10-man squad of Inductii. It was already wounded. It had a couple wounds on it, but being able to just finish off a Dreadnought with a tactical squad is a weird feeling. But also almost killing an entire tactical squad with a 15-man bolter squad is also a crazy feeling. It's good damage, good breaching damage. That's not to mention how well these do into Terminators. You're going to average, 5-6 wounds against a Terminator squad. So you're putting out a lot of damage. All right, that's the point. You're killing stuff that's hopefully above your value that you're paying for the squad. Now, always you're going to want to get more than one volley off with these guys, but being able to put out unsavable wounds or invuln save only wounds from this squad is a big deal. Now, your damage output, if you're firing at tactical Marines, you're almost doubling your damage output, not quite double. For the, what is that, 45 points more that you're paying for the Ace Fix bolters and the 15-man squad. I think it's worth it. I think if I'm taking Inductii, I'm taking the Ace Fix bolters just for this threat, that extra chance of, like fishing for 6s, right? You're just fishing for 6s twice, but the rending going into breaching is very strong. So let's continue on. Let's talk about joining command and specialist models. We're going to talk about some synergy, right? So there's no restriction for joining models into Inductii. This isn't like a the Destroyer's rule where you can't join units. You can join units models to Inductii. It's allowed. You can mix and match Arcanas. Remember, all of the Thousand Sons Arcana, they work the blessings that target your own unit. You only have to have the Thousand Sons trait to benefit from the power. So Inductii do benefit from models in the squad using powers like Raptora and Pavoni, their reactions adding +2 toughness, shrouded 4+. Your Inductii do benefit from that. They're just the ones that they can't be the ones to take the Arcana. They have to take the unattuned practitioner's Arcana. But putting a command model or a specialist in there to have that reaction to make them more durable, especially if you have a big 20-man blob and you're just trying to nuke stuff, in the middle of the board, having a way to mitigate the firepower is a really big deal. Corvidae does not benefit the squad. We talked about Corvidae being like the power for shooting units, especially units that have breaching. Because Corvidae adds rending 5+, sounds great. However, you can only use 1 power per turn, and it's a weird, like, mixed up, I guess, thought. And I had it in my brain the other way for a while. I had another video where I mentioned Inductii benefiting from Corvidae. They do not, because you have to use the power to get the breaching or use the power to get the rending. That's why we give them the Ace Fix Bolters, is to just give them rending all the time. They have to use their willpower on a power in their turn to benefit from the breaching. So Corvidae does not benefit this squad. Even in the other power that the Corvidae gets is a power, it's a curse to use in your own turn. So Corvidae is not a great power to put on a unit that would be joining Inductii. The weapons and psychic weapons used by joining characters do gain the breaching 6 up with the unattuned practitioners, the etheric guidance power. Remember that Thousand Sons trait benefiting from powers works both ways. So you put a command model with your Inductii, they all of a sudden get breaching 6 up on their weapon if the power goes off, if it's a manifestation successful with your Inductii. So a unit like an Armistice with a heavy bolter or Volkite Culverin, more the heavy bolter, and I'll explain in a second. A Moritat with Volkite Serpentas could be insane. Getting breaching on his Volkite. I think he's getting like 8 shots with those Volkite Serpentas. Pretty wild. So there's a lot of extra firepower you can add. Or if you just want to use your psychic shooting attack, like your Raptora Crushing Force or Athenaean, your what is it, the Emanation of Dread, you can add breaching to those as well. Now the Volkite doesn't work quite as well because Deflagrate doesn't benefit from breaching X. It's very specific that the Deflagrate wounds do not gain any special rules. They're always AP dash and they're always damage 1. So the Volkite Culver and the Volkite Serpentas, your actual Deflagrate wounds won't be breaching, but your initial wounds will. So that's nice. So my overall thoughts on the squad, just to bring it all back into focus. Inductii are a niche but powerful squad. They can put out a lot of damage, especially for their points, but they're kind of a one-trick pony. They have great damage output, again, for the points that you pay for them. All right, these aren't a squad. They're not going to wipe out a unit of Terminators, right? That is an insane amount of spiking that you would do on your dice rolls to kill a squad of Terminators, but for what you're paying for them and their reach, they're putting out a lot of damage. They are fragile for Marines, for a unit that you want to be in the fight. Right, again, that doesn't mean melee. It's just a unit that is not just hiding, sitting on an objective or in the back line. You want these guys up front within, preferably 18 inches to use their Ace Fix Bolters. They're fairly fragile. 1 wound 3+, toughness 4. It's not like a very hardy profile. The versatility for the squad is added with the command and specialist units joining. So you want the Athenaean Clarity, I think it's called Clarity, where you're clearing out statuses. You want those different abilities. You have to join in a unit with them, which is good that you can do that, but it is an added cost. And it's just another good tool in the toolbox, right? Thousand Sons players we have so many options, so much variety, so many different ways we can build every squad in our army. This is another tool that we have, and we can load down our army with so much rending, breaching firepower that it's insane, and these guys contribute to that really well. They're a very strong squad. Personally, I don't have any modeled specific Inductii models, but I would love to have a big squad of 20. Eventually, my plan is to get 20 more Mark 6s. I want to paint them with like the black helmets like they show in the books for the Inductii, and I want to use the 40k rubric bolters, so to give them cool Asphyx specific bolter minis. But a big squad of 20 sounds like an absolute blast to use, and for 250 points with all the equipment and stuff, it's not too big of an investment. It's cheaper than a Saturnine Dread, and my Saturnine Dread has done horrible every time I've used it, so I think I'll get more value out of these. And to round out this video, let's show off some bonus army photos. I painted something, and I'm really excited to tell you guys. I painted the new Fellblade, the new plastic Fellblade. I shared some pictures on Instagram, and I was painting it on stream and everything. Very fun mini, incredible sculpt. Absolute pleasure to work with. So, fantastic project. This is my Fellblade, and ignore my little photo setup though. Just some different pictures here. I got all this assembled and painted within about a week. I think it was like a week and a day that I was able to finish everything. Very proud of it. Haven't been able to put it on the table yet. I will. I want to. I am like desperate to like field this thing because it just looks so cool. It's so intimidating to put on the table, but it's a fantastic mini. I don't know if it's great, if it's terrible. It looks at least mediocre to use in the battle. It could be very strong, but very cool mini. I recommend it if you're able to. It looks great. It's the biggest mini I've ever owned, honestly. So great mini. But that is my that's my Legion Fellblade. It is named. It is the Donatrix Anonyma. The anonymous donor is the name of my Fellblade. Thank you so much for coming to hang out, guys. Thank you for listening in. I hope this video was informative. I hope I had my math correct. This is very much like kind of napkin math that I was doing, but I'm not a mathematician. More of a numerologist, right? So if you guys wouldn't mind leaving a comment, if you got something to contribute, if I got something wrong, please let me know, and I will try to correct it either in the description or in the future. But yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you to all the patrons specifically who are I shout out in the description for supporting me and supporting my channel. You guys get to watch this video a day early, and you know, get to share your feedback a little extra with me. But thank you for all that support. Next episode, we're going to talk about one of the coolest units we have, which is the Keenatai Blade Occult. This is our elite power armored infantry, and we're going to see what makes them tick, and maybe how we can use them effectively in battle. But thank you again, guys, and you'll have a great day. Bye, everybody.